I've done seasons working for.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I've done lots of seasons in Australia. I just love Australian snowy mountains up there. And, when I started getting into backcountry up in Alaska, when I came back to Australia, of course, I started doing backcountry out the back of Thredbo and finding some incredible runs out there. And I've actually worked as the lead female backcountry guide for Thredbo a couple of years ago as well. So,
oh wow,
I know,
yeah, nice.
I know the area out of Thredbo extremely well. And, there's a lot of flat sections, and that's why it's so incredible to learn to fly a kite out there. It's just perfect snow kiting terrain. You're at high altitude with clean wind flow. And I think you're definitely on the right step, borrowing a trainer kite. I'm going to talk about that today. And I look forward to coming out with you and
that would
getting
be awesome.
you on a bigger kite when I get there. Yeah.
How cool would that be? You're already connecting and going to kite together. I love it.
Amazing.
Yeah. And where do you work?
Kate from Backcountry Women's AU. She's just started the Facebook page. The Instagram page this winter, and she posted that this forum was happening, and I was like, why not? We're in lockdown, may as well join up and learn something new.
Great.
That's awesome.
I'm stoked about that. One of my first women's snow kiting clinics was actually out of Thredbo. So I'm excited to see there's more and more girls wanting to get out the back and also learn to use a kite out in the backcountry, which is can be good fun. Really good fun.
Is it quite male dominated? I don't know anything about it, to be honest. For Australia.
Yes, and the sport of kiting tends to be predominantly males, but there's more and more girls getting into it, and that's why today's meeting some of the women's kiteboarding community in the collective here is just a fantastic a way for us girls to get together and find out where we are and who we can go kiting with.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Awesome. I am admitting people one by one. They are starting to join. So we'll get started here in just another minute or two. Welcome if you just joined us. Hi, Alma. Good to see you again.
Nice to finally get here.
Yeah, welcome. Natalia, Diana, Robin, welcome. Marina, Erin.
I see a message from Laurel Eastman, who I think she's in Dominican Republic. Laurel, hi, hugs.
She is. All right, we're going to give it another minute. People are just joining at the last minute, and then we'll get started.
Oh, is that my friend Libby? Libby, hi.
Hi, Jen. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to hear from you too. We're on other sides of the world, but I tell you what, my memories from our women's kitesurfing wave camp are still motivating me, empowering me on. So, that was such a great weekend, wasn't it?
Well, that makes two of us. Yeah, it was awesome. We've taken to when I tell my friends, my husband and some other friends about all the tips he gave me at the camp, I've taken to starting off by saying, Jenny, 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 kind of like in the spirit of the Brady Bunch and Marsha, 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 because I mention your name too often. And like Jenny said, Jenny, Jenny, Jenny. So
that's hilariously because
know you who haven't even met you, but they know you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Also because, you know, I'm an Aussie and it's very common. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi.
There you go.
I love that. Thanks,
Yeah.
Libby, for sharing those tips. That's great.
And Jen, your reputation precedes you. That's awesome. So it's a few minutes after the hour, and I believe we should go ahead and kick things off. What do you say?
Yep.
Let's
Welcome,
do it.
everyone. Let's do it. And I'm going to make Frances, my partner in crime here, co-host. So Frances, if you need to do anything here, you're going to have power. It's awesome. Or if I get kicked off, you've got the power. Okay. All right, so let's get started. First of all, you're going to see there's a poll that's popped up on your screen. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and take the poll. If you will, give us an idea of how we can best serve you as a women kiter community. And we are going to do our best to do everything you need us to do this year. So thanks for giving us your votes. And you can vote on more than one item there. It allows you to do that. Here is our board, just in case you don't know all of us. I'm your board's president this year and next. Frances is in Miami. She is the board co-chair and my partner in crime today. Margaret is our board secretary and she is in Canada. And Laurel is our board treasurer and one of the co-founders of this collective. And she is in Dominican Republic. And Nicole is a board member and she is from Holland, but traveling all over the world with her job. So that is our board. In case you don't know us, we're here to serve you and we're excited you're here today. We also have a new volunteer, Carolina, who's from Sweden. So we're happy to have her on board too. So you might know, but one of our new charters this year is to do a virtual get together, a meetup like we're doing today. And we're doing this every 2 months as our commitment to you. And we're doing it in different time zones around the world. Anybody can come. So if we're doing, Australia time zone today for Jen and her fellow Aussies, it doesn't mean that people from other places cannot attend. We're going to try to give you all the time zones in the post, in the advertisement, and the time zone buddy where you can check your time. But we are doing it to make it easier for the speaker in their time zone and for that community to join, but anybody can come. So we will be doing these every other month, and the next one's in November. Please watch for it. We have great speakers like Jen today. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you calling in from? So one of the ways you can tell us that is go up to, if you roll up to where it says you're seeing Holly's screen and you roll over that, you'll see a bar open up. Choose participants. And when you open up the participant window, you'll find your own name is on that list. And if you will, go to your name and just mouse over until you see a blue button called More. And when you find that blue button called More, go ahead and click on it, and you're going to see a task of renaming. Once you hit renaming, if you would, put your first name and your location, because we'd love to see where everybody's calling in from today. So I'll give you just a minute to do that. Go to participants, go to your name on the participant list, More, and then rename yourself, name and location. And we still got a few other people just joining us. So this is a good timing to give you a minute to work on your name and location. Wow, we've got New Zealand, Alaska, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Western Australia, Miami, Florida, Cabarete, Dominican Republic, Oregon, several Alaska, great. Another part of several Australians as well, thank you. And I'm coming to you from South Padre Island on the coast of Texas in the US, a big kite surfing destination. All right, thanks everybody for doing that, renaming yourself on the participant window if you haven't already. So today I am so excited that we have Jennie Milton here with us, who is going to be talking to us about the transition from surfing, kite surfing, to snow kiting. She's also going to talk about self-sufficiency as a woman kiter and how to get into your kite flow. And she comes to us from Australia, and her nickname, for those of you who might know her, is Adrenogen, because she's always been doing adrenaline type sports her whole life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Frances, who's going to give you a proper introduction, Jen. So Frances, take it away.
Thank you. Our guest speaker tonight, Jennie Milton, has been kiting for over 18 years and is just as comfortable kiting in big waves as she is kiting in the mountains. She was given the nickname Adrenogen, and that name is still relevant today. Named by Kiteworld magazine as one of the world's top multi-sport kiters, Australian female kitesurfing champion, 4th place in the rookie award at the GKA Kitesurfing finals, and 2nd place at the Red Bull Ragnarok Snowkiting race in Norway. But what Jen is most proud of is helping women become confident, self-sufficient kiters at snowkiting and kitesurfing. Tonight, Jen would love to share her passion for kiting and win with you. We'll also learn some tips for transitioning from water to snow and how she combines her love of skiing and snowboarding with our sport of kiteboarding. Without further ado, I present to you Adrenogen.
Oh, thank you so much, Frances, for the amazing introduction. And thank you so much to the whole board and all of the members of the Women's Kiteboarding Collective for having me here. I'm so excited and I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you guys today. My name is Jennie Milton and my nickname's Adrenogen. I don't need to say too much more because Frances did just a great job with the introduction. I'm coming to you from Ulladulla in Australia today. I am super excited to finally be back home in Australia after 18 months of being kind of stuck in the US, but happy to be stuck there. And it's great to be here seeing my mum and to be kite surfing at my local spot here at home. My favorite sport when I was growing up, I'll start about the age of 13, my favorite sports were freestyle skiing. I'm super lucky that my mum and dad owned a ski and sport store when I was growing up. So in the wintertime, we were keen family skiers. And then in the summer months, mum and dad's ski store would turn into a sports store of whatever sporting equipment was becoming popular at the time. So when I was about 13, I was into the freestyle skiing, doing tricks and jumps, and actually ballet skiing. I'm showing my age here, but yes, when I was young, we still competed in ballet skiing, which was very similar to figure skating. But thanks to my dad, who has always been a keen sailor, in the summer months, we would spend our holidays on boat sailing to sea up and down the coast of Australia. And in our sports store, in the very early days of windsurfing, we became one of the biggest windsurfing stores in my hometown of Canberra as well. So I was so blessed and lucky to have such a sporty upbringing. And of course, my favorite sports of skiing and snowboarding and then sailing. When I saw a kite for the first time and saw somebody getting towed with this kite, all of a sudden, ding, 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 lots of alarm bells went off in my head and just went, oh my gosh, I have to try that. And yeah, that was the start. That was about 20 years ago when I got my first, stunt kite and then trainer kite. And it wasn't until about 2007 when the inflatable kite started to have huge leaps and jumps in terms of safety, that I was lucky enough to get into the inflatable kites at a young age. When I was 14, I was super, super lucky. My parents decided that I needed something in my life. They sent me down to Thredbo to do the Thredbo hiring clinic. And at the age of 14, I became Australia's youngest ever ski instructor. And that would be the start of when I learned how to become an instructor. And I started, falling in love with teaching people to do the sports that I was so passionate about. So it makes sense that after all these years, I'm still passionate about teaching people to do sport, and now especially snow kiting and kite surfing. The great thing about, flying a kite was that it's a sport you can do both in the summer and the winter. I know many of the people on here are already, loving kiting in the water, kiteboarding, kite surfing in different capacities. But I automatically saw the possibilities of using a kite with my skis or snowboard on. And it wasn't until I had my dream come true for my 30th birthday, I got to go up to Alaska to go heliboarding. And wow, that was an incredible trip. If it's on your bucket list, shake your bucket and get heli skiing, heliboarding up to the top, because it will change your life. But what I realized on that heli trip was that there were stormy days, windy and stormy, and the helicopter couldn't fly. And people were sort of trying to find things to do. And this really cute, sexy heli ski guide asked if I wanted to go and fly trainer kites with him out on the snow. And that I remember that session very well, because I think it was the first session that I fell in love with flying kites. And I also fell in love with that sexy heli guide, who is now my husband of 13 years. So yay, it's amazing what kiting can do for you. So at first, when I started, I was using a trainer kite, and I think trainer kites are such a great way to start. And I know there's many ladies on this call today that are just thinking about getting into kiting. We've got kiteboarders here, and then we've got skiers and snowboarders who haven't learned to fly the kite yet. And ultimately, I'd like to tell you about how we can mesh the two together. So trainer kites is the way I always start with my first lessons, especially if somebody hasn't flown a kite before. I like to use big trainer kites, so 3 meters or a 3.5 meter if you can find one. Fantastic, because they'll teach us how to fly the kite, but they also have enough power to tow you with your skis and snowboard on. I was speaking to someone when I first came on here that's going to go up and use a trainer kite in the snowy mountains in Australia. It's still winter down here. We have snow-covered mountains right now. So flying a trainer kite is the perfect way to start, because it's really safe. It's so easy. If you get scared or get nervous, you can just let go of the bar and it will fall out of the sky. The new 3-line trainers, and they're the ones to get, the 3-line trainers, they have a third safety line. So if you let go of the bar, it falls out of the sky, but it sets itself up for relaunch. And therefore you can easily self-launch the kite yourself 99% of the time. Unless it gets tangled, you might need to go and set it up. And that is the first step in becoming a self-sufficient kiter. I think it's really important to learn the skills to become a self-sufficient kiter. And those skills involve knowing how to self-rescue. Okay, even with a trainer kite, it might tell you, miles or kilometers this way, and then the wind drops, or you get your kite in a tangle and you need to know when to get back. Now on water, we're all taught how to do water self-rescues in some of our first kite lessons, but also on snow, we need to know how to self-rescue as well, because we can actually go a long distance. So having some backcountry skills is so important, so that we can actually have snowshoes if we're a snowboarder, or as a skier, we might have skins in our pack, some way of getting home, getting back to where we started. So self-rescue is so important. The other one is self-launching, being able to self-launch a kite. And that is something that as water kiters, we don't get taught very much. Most of the time we go to a beach where there's somebody there to help you launch and land your kite. And we avoid learning to self-launch and land. But when you're on snow, of course, you're going to crash your kite. You'll also choose to put your kite down to maybe take a photo of your friends. And therefore, we need to be able to self-launch the kite back up again. And that's something that I really focus on teaching people. I know there's some ladies in this group that have had a self-launching lesson from me. And it's amazing to see the ladies' faces of just, oh my God, self-launching, that's so scary, to just feeling so empowered once they learn the tips that I've got for them to make it super safe and super easy. You will be amazed. And then we can go and show all the boys that don't know how to do it. So self-launching and also self-landing. Self-landing is so important because what if there's nobody there to catch your kite when you want to come in? What if the weather changes and we want to land our kite right now? You know, we might be out in the middle of a big open, frozen lake, or we might be up in the mountains somewhere. We need to be able to be self-sufficient. And by learning to self-rescue, by learning to self-launch and self-land, that just brings so much confidence to us as kiters, both on snow and also as a water kiter. I'm currently in Australia and I'm able to go down to my favorite kite surfing spot. But because Australia is on lockdown, there's nobody there. It's deserted. There's nobody in the campgrounds, no one at the beaches. And so I feel so, so grateful that I know to go down there and safely make the decisions that I need to make to decide whether it's safe for me to go out for a solo session and whether, I'm confident in my self-launching, my self-landing and my self-rescue, which I am. And I've just had 3 super special days kite surfing, what looks like paradise with tropical blue water and an island. And I feel so grateful to be able to do that and have the skills to do that. And I can't wait to, teach as many women as I can to feel that confidence. I came up with a new word the other day. Tell me what you think, but I'm calling it kitefidence. We're building our kitefidence, confidence in kiting. Now, I'd like to share a story with you about my Alaska trip this year. That's Alaska in the background. That's the tusk up there. I've actually skied some lines in this picture. It's pretty special. And so I've been going up to Alaska for 20 years. I feel so lucky because I married my heli ski guide. It's part of my yearly routine now to spend 3 months in Alaska a year. And while Steve goes off flying people to the top of these mountains in helicopters, I am there teaching people to fly kites on the mountain. Which is great. This year I had many people come up to Alaska to go snow kiting, and hey, everybody in Alaska, I know there's quite a few of you here. And I had 2 gentlemen come up for one of my snow kiting camps, and they had both been kiting. One had been kiting for 15 years and the other one had been kiting for 12 years. And when they arrived up there, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what am I going to teach these guys? They've been kiting for so long. They must know it all. And then I thought to myself, yes, they've been kiting for a long time, but I've been snow kiting for 20 years. I'm sure there's going to be some things I could teach these guys. And they were doing great on the flats, and we went through all the basics. And then it was time to actually use our kites to go up the mountain. And I said, okay, in order to get towed up the mountain, you're going to need to learn to do a skill called down looping, which is where we down loop our kite, and that creates more power to pull us up the mountain. It's something that a lot of water kiters use too, but it tends to be a very advanced skill. Whereas on snow kiting, it's something that we need to learn as soon as we want to be towed up the mountain. And as skiers and snowboarders, we want to go up the mountain because then we get to go down, right? Skiers are all about riding lifts to the top, skiing or snowboarding down. So if we can use our kite, like our own personal ski lift, to tow us to the top of the mountain, unreal. I can have my own ski resort no matter where I am, as long as I've got the right wind conditions. So anyway, I had these guys and I started teaching them to down loop, and I could see the fear in their face. Oh no, down looping, that's too dangerous to do on snow. And I said, no, it's fine. Let me show you. And so I did some demonstrations. And when you're down looping, on snow, it's really quite easy. If you point your skis or your snowboard towards the kite, we are heading downwind at quite a good speed. You know, we skis and snowboards, if they're waxed properly, you know, have quite a lot of glide. And so I was able to show him how easy it was to learn to downloop snow. And all of a sudden he gave it a try and he's like, yeah, I'm doing it. Okay, you guys, you're ready. Let's go up the mountain. And we started downlooping our kites up to the first bench, which is sort of, you know, the first goal to achieve. And then we go to the second bench or the third bench, depending on how people's standards are. And you should have seen the faces on these guys. They were just so stoked. And one of them is really good friends with a whole bunch of pro kiters, including the amazing Patrick Reebstock, who, if you don't know him, definitely look him up. And he sent Patrick a message, said, you won't believe it, I was downlooping up the mountain. It was incredible. And Patrick said to him, you've been kiting for 15 years and you had to go to Alaska to learn to downloop from a girl. and yeah, it was incredible to be able to, you know, teach these skills to people that have been kiting a long time. And that's what I love to do, is to be able to teach somebody, if they've never flown a kite, to you know, to fly a trainer kite and to get towed and get their first rides. And also to teach advanced kiters some of the skills like down looping, which we use in snow kiting, self-rescue, self-launching and landing, in order to you know, have a safe snow kiting session and become confident on snow as well as in the waves. So as you know, when you're learning to snow kite, I have quite a few people say to me, oh, it must be easier to learn on the water. I'll go and learn on the water first. And it's a really interesting scenario, because it's actually easier to learn on snow. Believe it or not, it really is. I teach both in water and on snow, and it's so exciting on snow because every single person on the first day gets their first rides. And that's so exciting for somebody who's never done it before, to be towed with their skis and snowboard on. Even if they're just on a trainer kite, they're getting their first rides. Whereas when you're learning on water, as I'm sure many of you in the group know, it does take a while. We all think we're going to be up ripping and doing our jumps, but actually it's quite a learning process to get the confidence to get your first rides on a twin tip and then learn how to do your transitions. Whereas on snow, as skiers and snowboarders, we all already know how to turn. We turn all the time. So transitions tend to be a lot easier. And we don't have the worry of all the water issues, such as drowning, sinking, getting wet, and having to do water starts. Sharks, for some people, tends to be, you know, a fear that they have to deal with when kiting in the water. So kiting on snow is really very easy, and it's so satisfying to be progressing so quickly from your first rides to being able to go up the mountain. How do I know all this stuff about snow kiting? Well, I'll tell you another little exciting story, which was in 2012. I actually got a phone call that changed my life, and I was invited to compete on the North American Snow Kite Tour, which, golly, I wish that tour was still going today, because it was so amazing. Of course, I said yes to the chance to travel around North America with the best snow kiters in the country, and also snow kiters from Europe coming in. And for a month, we were going to film during the week at multiple locations in, where did we go? Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. It was an amazing trip traveling around. And on the weekends, we would run an event which consisted of teaching all the locals, and I was in charge of teaching all the women and kids, and then having some races every weekend so that we could all compete against each other and figure out who was going to be, you know, awarded the top male and female snow kiter. And every weekend, all the boys went to do their racing, and they were so serious. They had their skinny race skis. I think I remember some of them even in their lycra race suits. And but all us girls were, you know, it was more like a fun run rather than the Olympics. I was there to encourage people rather than compete with these girls. It was more about encouragement and getting everybody to do it and have fun with the event. So it wasn't until we actually got to the final event in Alaska, which was the finals, that I was in my home turf, and there were no other girls to race against. So the decision was made that I was allowed to race against the men. And I was excited about this. There were 12 of us on the start line. And thanks to my dad's sailing knowledge, I thought I'd picked a good spot on the start line. And bang, the gun goes off. Now in Alaska, they shoot real shotguns. And as an Aussie with no guns in my life, it's like, bang, you know, go. Okay. And I just went for it. I think I had my secret weapon of being in my local spot, knowing the terrain, but I was against all these guys on bigger kites, and there was a combination of foil kites, ram air kites, and then inflatable kites. And I was on an inflatable kite at that stage, and, you know, wasn't sure how I would go against the boys. But to my surprise, I got to the first flag and went, where are they? Oh my gosh, I'm in front. Go, go, go. The competitive spirit got into me, and I managed to hold my lead until the last flag, and then it was a straight line to the finish. And by the last mark, they were starting to pile up behind me, and I wasn't sure I could hold on to this. And on that last straight towards the finish line, I remember seeing this kite starting to overtake me. Because the lines are so long, you know, it was, I knew that he was catching me, but I just went for it, held on, and I got to the finish line, and I looked up, and all of the girlfriends, the wives, and my great Alaska Badass Girls friends were all there just cheering. Yeah, a girl won the race, you know, they were all cheering, and I was just absolutely ecstatic. I couldn't believe that I'd beaten all the men. But that ecstaticness only lasted a few minutes, because there was a tap on my shoulder. Jenny, we're running a final. I'm like, there was no talk of a final. It was supposed to be one race. There's a final. Okay, cool. So the top 4 of us got to race again. And so I'm back on the start line. I'm wanting to get my position that I had. But of course, the boys had figured out that was a great starting position, and we're all haggling each other. And I didn't get a very good start. So I remember seeing the boys taking off. And the interesting thing was that on the first race, I had gone kind of pretty much straight up the valley in the middle, and you couldn't see the flag. You knew kind of what direction it was. And so I saw one of the boys, the European champion, head that way over the ridge, and I saw the American men's champion head that way. And I went, I'm going to stick with what I did the first race. And I just held my line, and I got to that flag, and I went, where are the boys? Oh my God, I've done it again. Sweet. So I held my lead all the way to the end. It was tricky to overtake between the first leg and the last leg, and they were the chances for overtaking. And I could hear those boys behind me grunting, and I was just like focused. There's something called bearing off when we're kiting. If we point just down slightly, we can increase our speed. And so I looked at the finish line and went, okay, I'm going to aim for the downwind side of the finish line. That will be my best speed. And once again, I could see 2 kites this time, one either side of me, picking up speed. And I just thought, can I hang on to that finish line? And you know what? I did. And it's one of my most proudest moment as a woman, thank you, to actually win the final of the North American Snow Kite Tour up in Alaska. And, you know, it was amazing to see the cheering women, and it was great to get all the compliments. But I think the words that stand out most in my mind came from my really good friend, Brad Gordon, who is one of the top snow kiters in the world. And he said, I can't believe I came all the way to Alaska to get beat by a girl. So I hope you enjoy that, you know, empowering women story from my snow kite racing. I would like to talk to you about a bit more about becoming a self-sufficient and confident kiter. And that really starts at home. It starts right now in where you all are. You know, I can't get to everybody to give a personal snow kite lesson. But what I have figured out is that I can share what I do to be safe when I'm heading out there. And the first step is part of my kiteboarding flow, I call it. I want to get in the flow. We can start getting in the kiteboarding flow when we start dreaming of all the amazing locations we want to kite surf, or we want to go snow kiting. We start planning, we start dreaming, we start figuring out the logistics. And then I go, okay, time to get into kiteboarding flow. Now, flow is an analogy. F in the flow stands for forecast. So the first thing we want to do is we need to forecast what the wind's doing. And if you're in a new location, or maybe you're new to kiting, you need to figure out what is the predominant wind at that, at where we're wanting to go, and we need to start looking the forecast, not just at the temperature or whether it's sunny or stormy. We really want to start focusing on wind. And I could talk for an hour about forecasting, so I'll just keep it simple. We need to forecast and figure out which is the best wind to go on, okay, and what wind speed we need to go kiting, depending on your abilities and the sizes of kites that you have. So forecast, figure out, okay, it looks like Thursday is going to have some good wind for kiting. Is it going to happen at the perfect time when I've finished work or the kids, picked up the kids from school? Or, can I organize my life to make sure that I'm available to go, go kiting at what I call prime time, the best time of the day to go kiting. So once you figure out your forecasting and you go, okay, it's going to be northeast wind here, then where do I go? So F is for forecasting, L is for location. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is figure out the location. Sometimes when it's north wind, we need to go to this location, but if it's blowing south wind, which also is pretty good for kiting, we need to go to a different location. So you can't just presume that you're going to go to the same location every time. When I'm in Thompson Pass in Alaska, I've got 8 different spots that I go to, depending on which wind direction it is and how the wind is rolling over the mountains. So location is a biggie. And if you're not sure, that's the time to find a local Facebook group or send me a message and see if I know which is the best location for that particular wind direction. Put a message in the women's kiteboarding community and see if there's any other female kiters in that area who can give you a little bit of help. They might just be a couple of steps ahead of you and also be looking for a friend to do it with. So location. O in flow is observations. So once we get to the location that we've chosen, then we need to look around and see if there are any dangers. What are the observations? What are the conditions out there? So, if I'm going snow kiting, are there any rocks around? Are there any fences? Are there cornices? It's very similar to evaluating backcountry skiing and evaluating whether a mountain is safe to ski on or not. We're looking for any dangers that we can see. And I always just keep saying them to myself. I use the same routine every single time. I'm at my home kitesurfing spot, as I mentioned, and I've kited here for 15 years. But when I got to my location this year that I know so well, I went, oh, there's been a really big storm and a lot of the sand had been swept out to sea by big waves. So my beach did not look the same. Where I normally launch my kite was not a place I could launch my kite. I actually had to walk up the beach about 1/2 kilometer to find the right safe spot to launch. So don't get complacent that, oh, it's my local spot, I know it, because it can change every time. Especially with snow conditions, we're not just evaluating the wind, but we need to evaluate the snow surface. Now, the epic sessions are always in powder, flying snow around, beautiful powder skiing and snowboarding. But sometimes, my friend, the wind gets a bit angry and it blows really hard and affects the surface of the snow. It can create what's called sastrugi. Have you heard of that one? Put up your hand if you've heard of sastrugi. Bet your Heidi has. Hi, Heidi. Sastrugi is pretty much like frozen white caps. Everyone knows what white caps are in the water. Well, imagine white caps on snow, but they're all frozen. And that surface can become a danger. And there have been times when I've said, hey, we've got perfect wind today, it's blue sky, but that surface is too dangerous to go. I don't think we should go snow kiting today. Let's go ice climbing instead, or climbing in glacial caves and things like that. So we've got to be careful of our human factor. Human factor is something that they talk about when you're doing your avalanche training, and I highly advise all of you to go and do a basic avalanche class if you haven't done it already. They're fascinating to learn about snow science and understanding the layers in the snow. And they teach you to look for what they call red flags. And pretty much that's what we're doing in our observations, is we're looking for any red flags. Sometimes there might only be one red flag, and we might say, okay, maybe it's all right, and we'll give it a try. But if you see 3 red flags, that's a no-go to me. So really look around. It's important to look upwind of you. When we're looking into the wind, upwind, is there anything upwind that is going to be causing turbulence that makes this not a very good spot to launch or to kite? In the mountains, it can be as simple as a little rise that causes an updraft. You've got to imagine in the mountains, the wind is like flowing over the surface of the mountains and the snow, and so it doesn't just go straight like it does across the ocean. Updrafts, downdrafts, it'll go around features. I love that because it's so fascinating and such a challenge to sort of be able to read the wind in the mountains. I think the best analogy that I've come up with for people is it's like water flowing down a river. You know, you're going to have eddies on the inside. It's going to speed up around the corners. It's got to go up and over rocks. So if we look at wind as something that's liquid and flowing over all the surfaces, we can start to visualize what it's doing in order to choose the right place to launch and the right place to kite. We want to look downwind of us. What's downwind? Is there anything something happens? Am I going to get pulled into a fence or rocks or something like that? These are all the things that you need to think about when we're talking about observations. And then the last one, in flow, can anybody guess? It's the most important thing for kiting. We got forecast, location, observations, and wind. Wind, wind, wind. Yeah, Colina, good job. So wind is our most important key for kiting, and it's something that is constantly changing. We can start thinking about the wind in our forecast by looking, okay, is it going to be increasing wind today when I'm wanting to go out, or is it going to drop off at 4 o'clock? What is the wind, forecast to do, so we can decide, golly, we may not want to go today because it's going to get gale force this afternoon. Or, hey, we better not go too far from the car because the wind's forecast to die and we might have to walk home a long way. So it's important to start thinking about wind in every single step. But the last thing we want to do once we get to the location and we pump up our kites, we're constantly evaluating wind. Sometimes it might take us half an hour or so to get set up. And in that time, the wind could change and you might need a different size kite. You may have decided on a size, and then you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. And you're like, oh, golly, the wind's picked up. It's really important not to be lazy at that time, right? Snow kiting and kite surfing is not a lazy woman's sport. We need to make that decision. You know what? I'm going to make the effort. I'm going to pump up another kite, or I'm going to set up another kite as part of my warm-up to make sure that we're starting with the right size kite. And, if we are wanting to be a self-sufficient kiter, it's important for us to choose the smaller size out of your 2. If you're not sure, go with the smaller one. It's easy to go for a quick kite. You know what? I can handle a bigger one, rather than putting up the bigger size and going, oh my gosh, I'm overpowered. It becomes trickier once you are overpowered. But I have multiple methods of self-landing. a kite even in overpowered conditions. And I think it's really important to know at least 3 different methods for self-landing. You know, we can get an assisted land if somebody's there, right? We can do a dead man, which is where we attach a kite to a post or something heavy that we might have near us. Or we can do a self-land. Self-landing is, you know, the traditional way that they show us, the boys do on the beach. It doesn't always work on snow because the slippery. If you land a kite, it can just start sliding backwards. So can anyone tell me what is the safest way to self-land a kite, whether you are at the beach or on the snow? What is the safest way to self-land your kite? Anyone?
Release.
Pop it in the chat if you've. Yes, who said that? Holly, well done. Yeah, pull your safety. It's really common. I get so many people come to me for lessons. One of the first things I ask is, when was the last time you pulled your safety? Oh, golly, a few years ago. I check it once a year. And those people that tell me those answers are always the ones that are afraid to pull their safety. And I don't know about you guys, but you know, it's really important for us not to be scared to pull our safety release. It should be something. I do it every day, every single session, especially when I'm solo, which tends to be a lot lately. I pull my safety in order to self-land. The pro tip for that, for you advanced kiters, when you're setting up your kite ready to self-launch, think about which out of the 2 middle lines is your safety line. Think about that and think about, okay, when I'm coming into land, I want to bring my kite over to the right. Okay, therefore I need my blue line, right, as my safety line on the top. So your top middle line should be the safety line, so that when you pull your chicken loop safety, it slides down that top middle line. That will bring a perfect self-land if you have it on the right side. If it's on the other side, it's not a problem. Kite may flip on its back and you can monkey up to the kite, or I prefer to actually anchor it. I'll take my skis or my snowboard off and I'll anchor the safety line to an anchor. Avalanche shovel's a great one. If you pull your avalanche shovel out of your pack, stick it in the ground, you can tie your safety to that, and then you can walk down and get your kites. So knowing that you can pull your safety, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you will get at, and you're going to know how that kite is going to respond. So for those of you like Zinta, who's, you know, going to be starting with a trainer kite soon, you know, let go of the bar. As soon as you fly the kite, first thing you should do is just check the safety, and the safety on that kite is to let go of the bar. See what it does. Go, oh, that wasn't so bad. So then you won't be so afraid of letting go of the bar. You know, I want everybody to have a go at pulling their safety and seeing what it does. It shouldn't just be for emergencies. It's actually the safest way to self-land there is, and the kites are designed to do it that way. It amazes me that not everybody pulls their safety to land on a regular basis. So give that a try. I think I'm probably at my 15 minutes. Am I, Holly?
Yeah, we're a little longer, but I didn't want to stop you because it's all good information and we love listening to you. So yeah, I would love to open it up to questions. We only have 15 minutes left in our hour. So I'd love to open it up because I know some people have some questions for you, and do a couple of last minute housekeeping things for the board. So are you at a closing point, Jen?
Yes, I am. You know, I'll just mention the Kitesurfing Flow again, because I hope everybody loves using that as part of their safety routine: forecast, location, observations, and wind. And the 3 things to build, you know, confidence, kitefidence, is being able to self-rescue, right, on snow and water, self-launch, and self-land. So I hope you've enjoyed my stories and my talk today, and I hope I can get to go snow kiting or kite surfing with all of you at some stage around the world.
Oh, that'd be awesome, Jen. Everybody use your applause reaction button at the bottom, if you would. Let's give Jen some applause. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your insights, the flow method. That's a great acronym or mnemonic to remember what's important when you're going to go kiting, whether it's water kiting or snow kiting. I love the kite confidence. That term is awesome. It's kitefidence, right? Kitefidence. I think confidence is a great term. So thank you for pinning that term. And I just have to say, I love that you beat the men in that competition. I just do, because this is no longer a male dominated sport, right, ladies? No longer a male dominated sport. So I love that. I love that. So I want to just open it up or give it back to Frances, actually, who will facilitate any questions for Jen. So Frances, back to you.
So yes, ladies, if you have any questions, we're going to give it a couple minutes to put them on the chat, and I'll read it for Jen so she can answer us. So if you're curious about anything regarding snow kiting, how to transition, kite surfing, self-rescue, or anything that comes to mind, this is the moment to speak up.
Yes.
I'm just reading through everybody's chats, and thank you so much for the comments and all the comments there. I'm stoked to hear that, you know, one of my idols, Laurel Eastman, also pulls her safety at the end of each session. Yeah, Laurel, we need to be sharing that around. That's awesome.
So we got a question. What are the best locations for learning snow kiting from your experience?
Great question. You know, I think to learn to snow kite, we need to find, it's kind of like when we're learning on water, we want to find a flat location. You know, in Montana, there's lots of paddocks covered in snow, or maybe you've got a frozen lake that is covered in snow near you. So finding a flat location is great. But more importantly, finding somewhere with clean wind flow, so that you know, you don't have turbulent, too gusty conditions in your learning spot. The best places to find those spots is to reach out to your local, you know, kiting community and see what they suggest. You know, I've got some great in Montana, near Bozeman, near Missoula. I've got some excellent spots in Idaho. As I mentioned, traveling around North America gave me a really good, you know, good range of spots all over. Near Salt Lake City, you've got Strawberry Reservoir and Skyline. Skyline is a brilliant place to go. For all you Aussies out there, people tend to want to go kiting at Perisher, down in the Perisher Valley near the car parks there. Unfortunately, the wind is very turbulent in the valley. The cleanest wind flow is where you're going to be able to hike up to higher altitude where you've got clean wind flow, which is why I do most of my lessons out of Threadbow, because I can get to Australia's highest lifted point, and then we can hike out the back there and find cleaner wind flow. Down in the Victorian mountains here in Australia, you've got Hotham and Falls Creek are great places to learn. I think the other thing to think about, so we want flat, we want clean flow, is to find somewhere where you've got an instructor or a snow kite school, or somebody that has been snow kiting for a while that can help you transition from your kite surfing to your snow kiting, which unfortunately there are very few snow kiting schools around, and I'm doing my best to travel around to lots of people to teach, but I'd encourage anybody who's interested in becoming a snow kite instructor, please message me. I would love to help you make that transition and find more ladies that want to teach as well.
Oh, nice. Heidi's already waving at you, Jen. So you may have a taker. And I know, Jen, that you're quite the nomad. You're going from Australia to Alaska to Hood River, Oregon. And what's the fourth place you go to for camps?
I am doing camps in Idaho and Montana this year in
Nice.
December and January. Last year was the first time I'd done the women's snowkiting camp there, and they were such a success. I've got some fantastic spots. I never know exactly where the location's going to be until in my forecasting to check the location. So it'll be in Idaho and Montana, that sort of area, and I would love to see anybody that can get to those spots in December and January. Come kiting, hang out with a bunch of girls.
Awesome.
I will be having, I just got confirmation yesterday that the amazing Sensi Graves and Colleen Carroll will be joining me again. And also the amazing Melissa Ball Cronin raced with me on the North American Snowkite Tour. She didn't get to Alaska. She might have had a good chance of beating me. She's incredible. So I'm excited to all these, incredible kiters come along to help inspire, help teach, and help demonstrate what can be done with a kite.
I love it. Thank you, Jen. And I'm going to post with our after this session, we're going to post our PDF of the visuals that we used. And with that, I'd love to give information about your camps coming up, if that's okay, for snow kiting. So we'll get that out to our participants today. I know there's a couple more questions. Back to you, Frances.
Yes. Are foil kites easier to relaunch than inflatables in the snow?
Okay, good question, Frances. And I didn't cover that. It was on my notes, but I was trying not to look down. So inflatable kites are actually easier to learn and to use on snow than foil kites, especially if you already use inflatables. If you use inflatables and you own your own inflatables, going to be perfect for snow kiting. I think foils they're a different beast that you need to set them up the opposite direction. You need to fly them very differently. And I think foil kites are absolutely fantastic for backcountry missions where you want to put them in your backpack and hike up the mountain and then go kiting. That they're much lighter to carry. You don't need a pump. I think for racing, when I raced in Norway at the Ragnarok, I did choose to use a foil kite because the race kites in the foil world are incredible. You can point upwind a lot better. So there's pros and cons. If I'm going for my own personal snow kite session, I'm going to take my inflatable wave kite every time. Every single time I will take I ride the Ozone Rio. Done for many years. And the reason why I love using the wave kites on snow is because they drift. What drift means is they drift down the line when riding a wave so that you can turn the wind power on to get out over the white water. And then once you get onto the wave, you want to turn the power of the kite off so that you can actually surf the wave, and then you'll turn the wind power on as you pull out the front right before it crashes behind you. It is the same on a mountain. Style of snow kiting is I love to use the kite to go up the mountain, but I love to come down the mountain. And so if you use a kite that has incredible drift, like the wave kites, I can actually be skiing or snowboarding down the mountain and letting my kite just drift down the line, down the mountain. So no matter what sort of kites you have, they're going to work. It all just depends on your style.
Great. Thank
the
you.
freestyle kites, they work great too if you're into jumping.
Awesome. I know there's a couple more. I don't want to rush, but I know we have a couple more questions. A lot of people want to ask you things. Do you think the transition from snow to water kiting will be fairly easy? Is one of the questions.
From snow kiting to water kiting. So when you're going the opposite direction, and that's actually the way I did a lot more snow kiting, had a lot more time kiting on snow before I managed to get to the right locations, to the right schools to learn on water. But what I did find is that when you're snow kiting, your kite skills become so good. You really nail the kite skills, because on snow we can kite in a lot lighter wind. We can kite from sort of in 3 to 5 knots if you've got a big foil kite, and I can kite up to 40 to 50 knots with a small kite in high wind. So the more snow kiting you do, the better your kite skills will get. And then when you're ready to transition to water, it'll depend whether you've got any board experience, and I recommend going wakeboarding. Go wakeboarding or to a cable ski park and take the kite out of the equation, focus on your board skills, and you'll be up and going in no time, especially if you're a snowboarder, because they've got board skills and then they've got kite skills. So it is a way easy transition going from snow to water, for sure.
Awesome. Is there anything to be aware of in regards to the low temperatures on the kite gear?
Yeah, great question. And that was actually, one of the myths that I bust for people, because people were telling me, oh, you can't use inflatable kites in cold conditions, the plastic breaks and you're going to have problems. Well, I have snow kited all over the world for such a long time with all my inflatable kites, and I have never, ever, ever had my inflatable kite be damaged by the cold weather. I think the trickiest part, the pump hoses, I break a lot of pump hoses. Those things tend to get brittle, but they tend to snap when we're water kiting as well. I think one of the tricky things is getting the pump to stay in the valve when you're pumping it up. I can tend to slip out. My trick for that is to stick it in your mouth, get a little bit of moisture on it, and then stick it back in and then pump from there. But yeah.
Awesome.
I see a question there from Haley in Seattle that just asked, what forecast app do I use? Because that's a really great one. I'd love to. And I use windy.com, and it's the app with the red logo. It's red with a white W in it. And the Windy has been my go-to because I travel all over the world. Sure, there can be local apps that tend to be used in local locations. It's this one's better or that one's better, but I find that Windy allows me to forecast no matter where I am in the world. And that one thing that I love about Windy is that if you go down to the bottom, you put in your location and you go down to the bottom, and where it says basic, click on that and check to wind. Right? We don't want to know if it's sunny or cloudy. We want to know what the wind's doing specifically. So switch it to wind. And what it's going to do is it's going to come up with 4 or 5 different wind models. And those wind models we'll be able to see whether they're all in agreement, direction and strength, or maybe 2 of the models are in agreement and the other 3 are in disagreement. So we can make our own decisions on how confident we feel with the forecast by looking at all 5 weather models. Some apps that you use only use 1 weather model, so you're only getting one model's opinion. So I really love that the Windy app allows me to see all 5 weather models and see if they're in agreement or not.
Awesome
that helps.
tip. That's a great tip, Jen. Yeah, for all of us, I think, to remember to use various ones and really find the right answer through a variety of places, right? So I want to thank you again,
Yes.
Jen. Thank you so much for doing the Q&A, for being here today, for helping us who are water kiters to think about transitioning to snow. And if you're a snow kiter, maybe think about transitioning the other way. It doesn't sound as hard as I thought it would be by listening to you talk. So I want to just say thank you for helping us see the light on all the ways to kite. I'm going to skip over. We're not going to do a couple of breakout rooms in this session today because we want to give you more time to hear Jen and some of her advice and stories. So this time we're not going to do a breakout, but I do want to ask you one thing. And that is, where do you want to go next for your really cool kiting trip? And if you would just put that in the chat window to everyone as we close out here today. Where do you want to go next for your really cool kiting trip. Now that's Dakhla, Morocco in the picture, and that's where I want to go. So that's why I shared it. And I also wanted to share with you the poll results. Thank you for taking that this morning. That gives us some idea of how to support you best this year. So I really appreciate that. And if you see in the chat window, has anyone put in there? To Alaska with Jen again, Laurel says. Barbara wants to go to Alaska as well. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty cool. I always want to do a cruise in August in Alaska, but now I'm thinking about the snow kiting idea. So thank you. Brazil, Francis. Yes, I love it. I love it. So I want to close out by saying again, thank you, Jen, for offering so graciously to speak with us and share your tips and stories. And thank you for all of you who joined from all over the world. We'll do this again in 2 months. In November, we'll advertise the dates and times. Anyone can join if it fits your time zone. And I just want to encourage you as you leave here this evening or this morning, wherever it is for you, please encourage, support, and celebrate one another through kiteboarding. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Jenny, I just wanted to say thanks for an awesome session. Well done with your quarantine. I was going to type in something like, hey, now you're cooking with gas, chica. And throw in some good Aussie slang in there. But I'm psyched that, you did get up to Threadbow, didn't you?
No.
You didn't get up to
No,
Threadbow, so you've just been on the coast. Oh, because you're actually, you're in Queensland. You're in Queensland, right?
No, I'm in New South Wales.
Oh, you're in New South Wales.
So my mum lives down here in Ulladulla, and and I have a cabin down here, and I got this far, but all the borders are closed, so we're not. The ski resorts were shut down. I'm lucky to hear that I think Hotham or Bulla opened up one lift last week for the Victorians, but right now